Here today. I had pages of questions prepared, but none of them seem relevant because it is becoming more and more apparent to me that the purpose of this committee is not to find solutions or reach a conclusion that is best for children. I agree that there is a correlation between poverty and education and arrests and all of the things that my colleagues just laid out. However, we're having a hearing where they are trying to disinvest in all these things. So if you truly believe that there is a correlation between education and these disproportionate outcomes, then why are we having a hearing that is attempted to remove funds that was meant to reach our most vulnerable children? I appreciate all the Monday morning quarterbacking here today, but we don't need Brookings data to tell us that if kids are not in school, they won't learn. That's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. But we also know if kids are dead, they don't learn. I am a parent, so when you're talking about the marginal effects of this, I am an educator and I am a parent. I was not willing to risk my child on information that was not widely available to us or that we didn't know. So we took the approach with all the information we could at the time to save the lives of children. I don't know what anyone else was doing, but that's what I was doing. I voted in support of 2 presidents to make sure that our schools had the resources that they needed. Ms. Ray, I echo the same thing as you about the irony that we're hearing today. Because isn't it ironic that members of this panel are blaming teachers and teachers' unions while also arguing that their children should have been back in front of those same teachers? So either the teachers are good for your kids or they're not. You can't have it both ways, because you're arguing that the teachers wanted to keep schools closed and they were detrimental to learning and everything is the fault of teachers, but in the same breath saying, and our kids should have been back in front of those teachers with no disruption. You don't understand trauma. You don't understand what is happening in our classrooms. You don't understand what's going on with our kids if this is the conclusion that you have come to. I don't even know where to begin with the questions because I don't anticipate that I will get any meaningful answer from people who come before this committee as experts in the field of education without bringing out the lens and saying that this is, you talk about generational, you talk about decades. This did not happen in 20 months during a pandemic. This is the result of disinvestment over decades, as you've said. So the response for that to be to continue to disinvest just blows my mind. So my question is, which is not even a real question because I don't want an answer, if we have another pandemic, are you proposing that we don't shut schools down? If we have another global crisis, are you proposing that we do nothing? Because that does not work for me. I don't even know where to begin. We have people on the panel, Superintendent Truitt, you talk about how you created these reports, how you use federal funds to create programs to support teachers. That's what we sent that money to you in order to do, for you to make decisions on the ground that would best support your students and your communities. And this idea that only Democratic-led communities or Biden districts are falling behind, 6 of the top 10 lowest performing states for test scores in school districts are led by Republican governors. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I hail from the state of Connecticut, where my governor just announced today that he's going to use some of these funds to have intense math and science tutoring for kids to bring them back up to date, to close some of these gaps, to begin to do the things that we need to do. All of these things about schools had protocols in place. They could social distance kids. I worked in a school where the windows didn't open. I worked in a school where if all my kids were in school on the same day, 2 had to sit at my desk and I had to borrow a chair from next door. So this idea that we could have put kids 6 feet apart, open windows, did all these ventilation things, presupposes that we hadn't disinvested in schools for the last 30 years and all of these things were in place. So if that's what you believe, there is nothing I can do to help you. There is nothing I can say to bring you to the reality of this century. In 2023, where we have schools and buildings without proper ventilation that have on average 2 vacancies for every grade, that have school teachers that are not certified, that have all of these things that affect student learning. So if we are not looking at all of the social determinants and making sure that all of those things are in place first, before we jump to, and it's because schools were closed so that we could save kids' lives and that's why they're behind, then there is nothing I can say here. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Thank you very much.